Thank you so much for watching the Socialife. Today I'm going to be answering questions, and I'm going to answer 2 questions that are basically the same. It all has to do with fundraising, startup, and how you can get the capital to start your something amazing. So the question is, how do you fundraise when starting as a project? By Dorian Scott. And then how do I do pre-startup fundraising? And that's by Jana Reed. And so I want to answer both those questions because those are huge questions when you're first starting out. And I know that I was also in the same position and it was tough to figure out. Basically, what you want to know is the reason that it's important that you have a 501c3 when you're asking for funding is generally because you're not able to get the funds from grants and foundations otherwise. So they are looking for organizations who are who have some sort of track record. They know what you're going to do with their funding. They know you have a good program. They know that you're going to be around for a while. And so if they give you their funding, they know that it's going to be spent wisely. And that they can also prove that they gave funding to a 501c3 because they have laws on their end as well that they have to abide by. So it's not that you can't fundraise for your pre-startup or for your nonprofit or whatever you have that is your something amazing. You can absolutely fundraise. You just have to be upfront with the people about having your designation if you're a tax deductible, if this is a tax deductible donation or not. That's mainly what people care about when they're trying to just support you. If they know that they're not going to get a tax deduction, generally they will still support you because they support what you're doing and the work that you're doing. And people understand that you have to still wait to get your tax exempt status and all of that. So let me start with the first thing on my list, which is a fiscal sponsorship. The fiscal sponsorship is probably one of the safest routes to go. If you can find it. This is also how I started my nonprofit. I partnered up with another nonprofit that had a very similar mission to mine, and basically I was able to use their nonprofit status to collect the funds. Although I did my own fundraising and I did my own, events or my own asking, they didn't have to ask on my part, and you want to make sure that you're very clear about who's doing the ask and what amount of money is going where, and if you are the one getting the funds for your organization, will all of those funds come to you, or is there some sort of fee that they get for housing you as a fiscal sponsor? So you need to make sure that you understand that. The second thing I would say is to get to know your community foundation. Generally, every community has a community foundation, and this is a place where they manage nonprofits, foundations, grant-giving organizations, things like that. And so generally they know a ton, they have a ton of resources for you. And you can always just go in and ask questions about your nonprofit. And I think it's a great resource that a lot of people don't know about. I didn't know about having a community foundation and exactly what it did until I was ready to start my nonprofit. So I think it's a really good place for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs to start and go ask your questions and make sure you are being guided correctly with legal advice and all of that. Next thing is, Gofundme. It's there for those reasons, right? You want to try a platform maybe where you can get people to crowdfund for whatever your something amazing is and whatever your mission is. And if you're good at explaining your mission, generally people are happy to support you. So that's a good place to start. And on that same note, Kickstarter is another place. And Kickstarter is basically known for helping people get their ideas off the ground, even when you don't necessarily have a product yet. So those are 2 good places that we know are available and are there for your use. So I would try those, even if you just have a side campaign going on GoFundMe for your nonprofit. The only thing I would make sure to know on that to note is that they do take funds. They have a fee that they take from all of the donations or anything that comes through, because since you're not necessarily designated as a 501c3 yet, you won't be able to sign up as a nonprofit. So that's a great option for you, and I would consider doing that, GoFundMe and Kickstarter. The next thing is family and friends. That's what they're there for, right? They want to support you. They want to know what you're doing, and they want to be behind you 100%. And it doesn't matter how much they give to you. If you have a goal and you let people know what your goal is and what your mission is for that goal, people are willing to give as much as they can to help you move forward with that. So whether you decide to do that on GoFundMe, Kickstarter, through a community foundation, whichever, but always be sure to include your family and friends in what you're doing and allow them to support you in your efforts. Next thing is you could always pull out a loan, and you could do it just like a traditional business would and start out with a loan. I think this is a little precarious, honestly. I would not personally recommend this, but I'm telling you what the options are, and that's it. So if you are serious about wanting to, buy a building or have a space or whatever it is that you need for unleashing your something amazing on the world and getting it out there, if a loan is something that would help you, then I would certainly consider doing that. So if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes to make sure that I don't miss anything so I can give you all the information. The next thing is in-kind gifts. Now, this is huge because a lot of people forget about this. If you need accounting help, or you need legal advice, or you need a space, to rent an office or a place to meet clients or anything like that, there are tons of places that you can use. I mean, grocery stores sometimes have a back room. Starbucks has rooms. You can actually reserve a table at Starbucks. I didn't know that you could do that, but you can reserve a table for a specific time at Starbucks and meet there. You can ask a business owner if they'll allow you to come in and use some portion of their office, maybe their meeting space. And all of those are in-kind donations and in-kind gifts. So what I would recommend is making a list of what you actually need, including funds, space, services you might need. Write out all the things that you were planning to use the funding for, because if you don't necessarily need funding for everything, then you might be able to start your something amazing without actually requiring much in the way of funding. So there's a ton of places that will give you pro bono services if you ask if they do pro bono work. And if your mission aligns with something that they already are interested in, and they're interested in taking you on, then they will. So don't be discouraged if the first few people, or you're not able to find pro bono work. Don't be discouraged by that. Just know that that's an option, and I would definitely ask. Do not leave that on the table. Let's see here. So I think that was it. The last couple of things I just want to leave you with is, when you're asking for these things and you're not a 501c3 just yet, just be upfront with your purpose. Be upfront with, why you're fundraising and what you're trying to do. I would not do this to try to fund a salary or to pay someone. I would not use this for those reasons. If you're trying to really accomplish a mission, use it for that reason specifically. This is not a time to try and pay yourself. And I'll be talking about that in a future video, but like how to get paid when you are working as a nonprofit. But I certainly would not start out like that. I don't think that that's a wise way to go about starting your nonprofit, since you are starting a nonprofit or a social enterprise. You need to really focus on completing the mission and accomplishing your mission before you focus on how you're going to get paid. So these tips apply to someone who's trying to start a social enterprise. And they do apply if you're trying to start a business as well, but you have to make sure that when you're trying to start your business, you're not trying to pay yourself. That's my biggest caveat on this whole video. It's not about paying yourself. It's about accomplishing your mission. That's how you will get people to come along with you and help you. The last thing I wanted to say was to make sure that you create a proposal. If you decide to do a fiscal sponsorship, make sure that you create a proposal and write up basically, how things are going to go about happening with each other. Like, who's going to get the funding? Is there a fee involved? Do you have to fundraise for their organization as well in order to be under their fiscal umbrella? There are a lot of things that I would make sure that I ask, and maybe I'll do a video on the things that you should ask if you're going to do a fiscal sponsorship, because I think that it's a beautiful thing when it works out well. But there are a lot of things that you guys have to make sure you're on the same page for everything. That includes timelines, it includes social media, it includes everything. Like, how are you going to be talked about? How is this going to work? Is it going to be a one-time event and you guys are going to work together and get the funding and split it in half? I mean, there are so many different ways to work together as a fiscal sponsorship. You want to make sure that you guys have similar missions. And some of the places that you can look for a fiscal sponsorship would be recreational groups, associations, churches, religious organizations, if your Something Amazing actually falls in line with that. Clubs, groups, anyone with a designation of a 501c3. I think you can also work with an advocacy group, a 501c4, but they would need to be under the umbrella of a 501c3. So I would actually just scratch that and just look for someone with a 501c3, because that will need to be how you get your funding. So I hope that helped you. I know that was quite a bit of information, but I wanted to make sure I got all that in there so that when you go out to unleash your something amazing and find your partner that you're going to be working with, or how you're going to start fundraising, that you're doing it with all the information. Thanks so much for watching The Social Life. I do hope that helped you, and I will see you next week for Real Talk Tuesday. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter. If you're interested in signing up for that, I'll leave the link down below. And don't forget to leave your questions if you have any that I can answer in future videos. And I will see you all next week.